Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's Gary Brown from TUG, and I want to welcome you to the MaxRecall webinar today. The presentation is going to be done by Raymond Brooks, our very own Raymond from MaxRecall. Raymond, it's all yours. Please take it away.
Great, thanks you, Gary. And a quick plug for TUG from the MaxRecall standpoint. We are a gold sponsor, and we've been a long-time sponsor of TUG, and look forward to seeing each of you there. We're looking at introducing some interesting new features. I'm going to show a few of those today and let you in on what else you might see, but you have to be at TUG to see those. So real quickly, MaxRecall has been around since 1999. We have over 1 billion documents under management among our various customers. We have about 10,000 users. We're a privately held company, privately funded, and we have two core functionalities: MaxRecall, our document management, capture, retrieve, utilize solution, and our business process automation tool, MaxCapture, where we capture and facilitate data delivery and automation. Our founding premise was that documents and the information that they contain drive all business processes. This is what we as humans interact with. We convert that information into data so that we can drive document-based business process automation. That's what our focus is. That's where we have spent a great deal of time and effort in developing our solutions around that mantra, if you will. So there's 4 cornerstones to our solution: the capture of documents and data, the archiving of that information, delivering that information to drive work, and to make all of that interactive. And you'll hear me talk about interacting a good bit today as we focus on that. WebAccess is our web-enabled MaxRecall. It is our go-forward platform. It is launchable from the Infor platforms. If for those that want a web-enabled versus a thick client-enabled solution, WebAccess can fit that need for you. The cornerstone of document management is obviously capturing documents. We do that by capturing documents from the print output stream from your ERP. We can scan third-party physical documents as one source. We can capture email documents, email attachments, and bring those into MaxRecall, as well as a print utility where we have a MaxCapture print cap, print utility that emulates a printer that facilitates indexing of documents. If you can print from any solution, you can put a document into MaxRecall. The focus that I wanted to talk about today is intelligent, interactive documents. We started out as an archival solution with NextTrend years ago, and what happened is that our customers drove us to use those documents to manage their business processes. Instead of a document being put into the document management system at the end of a life cycle, it was the initiator of a business life cycle. What makes these things interactive and creates intelligence is the captured metadata, the ability to do application inquiries to the other ERPs and other applications, to create scheduled alerts, the ability that we're now using to park and hold documents until certain events occur where it's appropriate to deliver it for processing, the document delivery, whether it be the presentation of documents for our expense approval functionality or the delivery of an EDI file for data processing. We validate data based upon what is captured on a document. We also validate that information against the ERP. So one of the responsibilities of an enterprise document management system is to coordinate all of the data elements. I'll be speaking to data here shortly. All of this allows us to drive what we refer to as document-based workflow, delivering the document so you can access the information and the data that is contained on those documents to drive your business. And then where possible, we facilitate process automation. EDI is the primary area that we're able to do that. We're introducing a new solution that's an extension of WebAccess, trade named Interactive Documents. And what we have developed, if you can create a document in the form of an Excel worksheet. We're able to take that Excel worksheet and through our interactive application distiller, which is in the cloud, one of our team members will create or transform that that Excel document into a hosted interactive application that resides in our cloud, and then that application is presented within the WebAccess Platform as an iframe. And I'll demonstrate this for you in a few minutes. But we have had numerous requests to create the ability to interact with documents where I can add data to a document, I can edit that at a later date, at the same time maintaining the control of that document within the confines of the MaxRecall document management solution. So here's a screenshot of what I'll show you live. This is an employee expense report. This is an Excel document that we use within the MaxRecall organization for a number of years. This is now a form that I can interact with, fill, and then once I save that document, it's saved into the MaxRecall archive. I can call it up and I can edit it. So we see this as a very significant step forward in our drive to have intelligent interactive documents. Some examples of what we anticipate this will be used for is employee expense reports, credit application forms where a customer might fill out a credit application, other internal forms that you need to manage return authorizations. You may have time management tools that you're interested in creating a form for, or to-do list. We have several customers that have Excel-based AP expense GL allocations for those invoices that have a large volume of GL allocations. They created a Excel template to manage that. They'll now be able to transform that Excel template into a web-based fillable application form and manage it within the WebAccess environment. Now, so far these documents are forms that have been created where you will fill the data into those documents. You can edit and manage that data. The next step will be to reverse engineer the application, and we've already tested this. It's actually in development now. That what will happen is we will pull data, and from that data we will populate a form. So one opportunity is to take a pick ticket, pull the data, populate that pick ticket template with the appropriate order data, where a handheld iPad or some other sort of tablet can be used in the warehouse to go in and fulfill the orders. When that order is complete, it can be saved, which would give an alert that the order has been completed. It could actually go on the route truck and someone could execute a signature and manage proof of delivery. The important thing to note about this is each time that interactive document is saved, it's saved to MaxRecall in its archive. So there's a chain of command, if you will, managing the document flow there. So we're very excited about this opportunity. The second thing that we have developed is an integration to Outlook. We have created some integration points that allow us to basically, if you can send an email with an attachment, you can auto-deliver that attachment to MaxRecall where it will be filed automatically into MaxRecall. The key component of that is in the subject line where there are naming rules that have to be followed. For example, if I had an employee expense, in fact, hold on one second, let me move to another screen. I think, yeah, you should see this. This is an email that I've crafted. Here is an expense receipt. And in the naming convention, I've identified the document, EE expense report, my name, and the date that it's associated with, and I'll send that document, and that document should end up in MaxRecall associated with some other documents. So we see this as very important. At the current time, we're detaching attachments and indexing the attachments into MaxRecall. We will be extracting the email body by the time we're presenting it TUG to where the actual email can go in. So one of the benefits of this type of a solution will be that we will be able to manage emails and associate those emails with other documents inside the MaxRecall archive. So again, you begin with an email. That email is sent to an Outlook client that resides on the MaxRecall server. In this case, it's saveme@maxrecall.com in our test environment. We then extract the attachment. Because of the naming convention, we're able to create the indexing parameters, and then that document gets stored in your MaxRecall and available through your WebAccess presentation as a stored document. So we see that as a significant step forward in our long-term goal of having all documents within an organization managed and controlled by the MaxRecall repository. So here's the example of what I sent just a minute ago, similar to this. Again, well, all I have to do is an email address and a naming convention. Now, it would be possible that besides me sending this directly to MaxRecall, I could send it to, say, Gary Brown. Maybe I'm sending him some information about our TUG relationship as a sponsor, and I could CC Save Me at MaxRecall. And as long as I put in the subject line somewhere the key parameters to alert me that I need to index this document, when that document came into the MaxRecall Outlook repository, it would detach this, rename it, and put it into the MaxRecall document. So pretty excited about that. Other things that we're going to be introducing at TUG, I'm not prepared to show you those today, but we will at TUG, is we have developed a workflow tool group, which includes all web-based query builder, an action library. If you understand workflow, you have a series of actions, so you're able to chain or link together action 1, action 2, action 3 to drive a business process. We have an easy email component of the action library that will allow you to identify under certain queries, under certain circumstances, I want to send an email alert, or I want to send an email with a document link into the MaxRecall WebAccess Platform so I can interact with someone about documents in the repository. And of course, anytime you have a workflow, you have to schedule that, so we've created an easy schedule. Some of these tools have existed in core MaxRecall for a long time, but they have required a very advanced admin knowledge of MaxRecall and many times a pro service engagement with us to do that. Our objective is to expose this functionality in WebAccess, add to it, and make it a user-friendly, document-based workflow configurator to drive business processes. The other thing that we will be introducing at TUG is managed services. We've had a number of customers who have asked for actual assistance, particularly in the MaxCapture arena, for actually running the software on your site with our team. MaxRecall, through one of its sister companies, currently has a number of managed service engagements where we're doing back office accounting, back office data processing, utilizing MaxRecall and MaxCapture technology and hosting platforms primarily in the dental industry and the automotive industry. So those are some areas that we have pioneered with the managed services, so we're going to be offering those at TUG. So these are two reasons that you need to stop by the booth and spend some time with us. So with that, let me switch to the actual application and briefly go through a quick demo of WebAccess. One of the things that we take a great deal of pride in is our security revolving around user teams, users, document groups, document types, keywords, and that type of thing. So that controls the security of access to information. In the WebAccess platform, the availability to both view and index and deal with the interactive documents are all presented subject to user permissions. If you have a user that you only want them to view documents that they've been assigned to them or they've been allowed to, then this view tab would only show for them when they logged in. I'm an admin user, so I see all components. In our organization, generally you have a group of documents. We'll go look at accounts payable, vendor invoices. I'm going to change my date here just to have a little bit better results, and we'll do that. This is the search grid, tells us what information I'm searching, and then I'll get a search grid that comes back. We've added quite a few features that I don't have the time to go into depth with, but I'm able to pick 1, 2, 3, or 4 in a large list and shuffle that list. It makes it more user-friendly. The plus sign indicates that there's related documents available. If I highlight that field, it's going to go pull that document, and I have it set up to bring related documents. So here's my vendor invoice, and here's the AP check that paid that. I have some different presentation options in that I can show my related documents on the side as well. So we find this to be very useful. In the case of expense approval functionalities and other business processes, the keyword edit is a key component where users come in and edit and change different business statuses, approval status, workflow status, document status, various statuses. Here's a workflow. This invoice is complete. If it was manual entry, I could do a sort on manual entry, and once I entered it, I could then mark it as posted. So we facilitate, this is part of what drives that metadata that allows us to facilitate business processes. So that's a kind of a quick overview of how you view a document. From an index functionality, all of the functionality that's in Core MaxRecall exists here. I'm going to select a demo of the AP expense invoice, and I have 2 documents that I put in. One of the things I wanted to show, which is unique to WebAccess, is I have the ability to run a series of processes as I bring the documents in. I can use a local browser and navigate to my local directory and find certain documents to bring in and index, which is nice for the user. But once I brought those documents in, they can run through a series of processes. Those processes might include barcode reading, it might include OCR, it might include a split sort merge functionality, and other types of business processes that can be configured. Once I have that document in MaxRecall, I open the task. This is one I did the OCR functionality on. If you're familiar with MaxCapture, I can highlight this field, and my vendor is Club Drive. So, and of course from an icon, I'll just map this value here. If I hold the shift key, I can get the balance. But the point is, I can come in and capture different values automatically. What this really does, if you have complicated data capture that is prone to data entry, if you have alphanumeric values and things like this, it gets challenging. It is much more efficient to use this type of capture. One of the other things that I'm able to do with this kind of functionality is to get if I capture certain values that are cross-referenced, so if I had a vendor number, it would look up the vendor name and everything. The same auto lookup functionality that we have in MaxRecall today exists in WebAccess, and we have that. So that is a very quick overview of how we do indexing. I mentioned we have a whole series of administrative tasks that can be done at the web level. I can set up user roles and securities, particularly where we're doing approvals and whatnot. A Tier 1 approval should not be able to change or modify a Tier 2 or Tier 3 approver. So we created functionality that lets me control and lock the values for certain keywords. We talked about our index services. This is where we would go in. We just did the demo expense invoice, and if I edit that thing, I'm exporting that to the OCR engine, and this is the way that that gets set up. It's pretty straightforward in how you set it up. You save that, and then next time you process it, those processes run through. So what we're known for is our ability to index a large variety of documents and use a lot of different tools to capture those. Let's go look at the new component, our interactive forms. Again, organized in a similar situation. I've got employee expense management documents. I've got an employee expense report, and that's going to show me the that I have one. This is a document that I started. I did not finish it. I saved it to the system, but I did not finish it, meaning it's not in MaxRecall yet. So it's loading. This is the iframe. So this is an actual web application being presented inside this our WebAccess web application. Here's a document I filled out temporarily. We'll add one value just so we know I did something here. So we'll put $333 tip. I was very generous, or I was with probably Gary from Marjam in New York at one of those expensive places he likes to go, but always a good time. So we'll save this document now. I'm going to finish this form, and it will tell me that it was successfully saved, and I can close the form. If I wanted a blank form to begin, and what's the important component of this is a fully functional Excel worksheet in a web format. I have drop-down capability, so I can select my name. If I put values in here, it's going to do the math for me, and fill out values for me and do totals. So anything that you put in there, you can do. In-house MaxRecall, which is our internal, we have project forms, timesheets, time slips, and a whole host of fillable documents that we use on an interactive basis that we use internally. So the key here is if you can design it in Excel, we can present it as a web application inside of the interactive forms functionality. So I'm going to leave this screen, go back to view, go to my document group, go to my employee expense report, and go to the report, and we'll run that. Well, we can just do wide open. Last 30 days will be fine. Should be one or two documents in. So here are the expense reports that came in. This is the one that we just did. Remember, I think it was a $333 tip that I showed. And there's that. And wait a minute, I didn't tip $333. I made a mistake. So I simply launch here. It relaunches the application. I go in and I can now edit this, and notice when I edit it and tab off of it, the math will change here shortly, and it recalculates the spreadsheet similar to that. I can now save and finish this document, and it will take me back. That was successful. So if I close the form, it brings me back. This is a PDF version of that document, which is not editable, but I can edit it by launching the edit form. So I can go back and forth between the documents. In this case, we sent an email earlier. If I open the plus sign, it shows I have a related document, and I sent with this report. It's launching that document now. And what it should bring me is an expense report I did earlier, and here is the receipt I associated with it, which I believe is a hotel receipt for a trip I took to Pennsylvania. So again, the power of MaxRecall and that relational presentation is what makes it very usable and user-friendly. Now, I'm going to show you in a minute, or discuss our employee expense approval process that we've had great success with. But when I'm discussing that, keep in mind that we could take these employee expense reports with the receipts and handle those in the same way. In other words, routing those for various management approvals for those documents. One of the other things to keep in mind is I've got a salesman on the road. He fills out his expense report, and he's in his hotel room. He can use his cell phone using one of the capture applications that you can download for free. He can take, with his camera effectively scan his different receipts. He can then convert those to PDFs and using the email functionality, email his MaxRecall at MaxRecall email account with the naming convention and the subject line correctly, and his receipts will automatically associate with the expense report. So that's why we tied these two together with the Outlook functionality. So hopefully you can visualize the power of that situation. So let me go back to the PowerPoint, and let's talk about a few other things, and then we can open it up for questions. One of the things that we keep seeing and is the challenges that we all face. There's a lot of confusion, we believe, within the marketplace and the business environment. To be mobile, not to be mobile, when to be mobile, where's the data coming from, how do I access that data, how do I process that data? So we all face that challenge, and I kind of did a little funny slide here where it says it's all about the data. But what data are we talking about? We're talking about big data, we're talking about relational data, we're talking about doing data mining, how about my data warehouse? It gets pretty confusing and can be overwhelming. So we've tried to participate in adding some order to that. So anybody can OCR a document, and there are some applications out there that do a good job of OCRing, and they capture the data on the document. But our mantra is, it's what you do with the data that matters. And here's an example of that. We have over time developed our most advanced APPO based application. And in that application, here's the business process that flows. An email attachment is delivered to MaxCapture. We bring that document in and we determine, has that PO been received by the ERP? If it has not been received, we put that document on hold because there are EDI challenges to processing unreceived invoices. And in today's world, particularly with email invoices, I'm getting documents well in advance of receipt, okay? Once it is received, we reroute the document and then we match the PO detail to the vendor detail. One of the reasons that we have put this into place is because in the SX world, you struggle with non-stocks. Many of our customers that want to engage in EDI type activities, their warehouse of information between vendor cross-references to their internal item IDs are not well done, not maintained. But if I can pass the PO detail, I can drive throughput on the EDI side. Okay. We auto-finish documents on a first pass. Those that didn't pass get presented to the operator for verification. Ultimately, we export the documents to MaxRecall, and then we export an EDI data file, and as I mentioned, we have PO details in that file for the optimum processing. And then finally, we've instituted audit reporting. There is now a database associated with MaxCapture and MaxRecall that allows us to do reporting and actually show how many files I began with and the steps that those documents followed and where they ended up and what status they ended up in inside the MaxRecall archive and inside the Infor ERP. Is it posted? What happened to it once we delivered the EDI file? So in review, MaxCapture's job is to recognize a document, extract the data through OCR. We validate that data through a whole series of rules and interactions with the ERP, looking at the PO line detail, as I mentioned, ultimately to provide the best opportunity for success, putting the document in the MaxRecall archive for reference and delivering the data to the ERP. So that's what we do. The combination of MaxRecall and MaxCapture allows us to deliver business solutions that really work. And a good example of that is AP expense approvals. Well, what's the issue? Okay, well, one, we have customers that are faxing and emailing their invoices around for approval, which means they have to attach it to an email. The operator has to determine who gets it for approval. So they're doing a manually routed process. And we're talking about some of our largest customers with 30, 40, 50 locations, and they're having to manage delivery of documents to that many branch managers. Then when the branch manager or whoever the approver gets it, they write a bunch of handwritten notes across the document, many of which are illegible, or they write over an important value on the invoice itself, which blocks it from understanding. So they're manually entering the AP invoices after all of this approval process, so it's a cumbersome, challenging solution. What we've created, and we have a number of customers using this, is we take expense invoices and we capture the header information, and then we have established, with partnerships with a couple of key customers, a multi-tier approval capability. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 if necessary, and within those tiers, depending on who the vendor is, what the dollar amount of the vendor, what GL code it's assigned to, we're able to create different hierarchies. So we might have, the IT department may have one series of thresholds for those tiers. The branch manager has a totally different hierarchy that he has to follow. The human resources or the marketing department, you know, that has a larger advertising budget possibly, their hierarchy is different. So we have a robust facilitation for this. What happens is these documents go into the MaxRecall repository, and based upon these email addresses associated with the assigned approver, we send that approver an email with a link to WebAccess that they can launch WebAccess, and it opens up to the specific document that they're looking at. If we don't run out of time, I'll show you that in just one second. So the email approval process flows something like this. My documents come in maybe through the email, an operator, or through MaxCapture. They're indexed into MaxRecall, where they're assigned to a team member. They go into the MaxRecall repository, and from the repository I route those via email to the appropriate approver. Here's our worker bee really knocking it out. He's got to approve it, reject it. He can add notes to the document, and he puts it back into the MaxRecall repository as approved. It then gets rerouted to the different tier levels, Tier 1, Tier 2, and ultimately, depending on the responsibilities of these different levels, the documents get completed, and then we're able to extract a data file from the MaxRecall repository once the approvals have occurred and deliver those to the ERP. One of the misnomers is that documents, the only way that we can deliver an EDI data file is from MaxCapture. That's not true. We have more and more customers where we're moving documents first through MaxCapture, and because of the need to hold documents or to wait on approvals or whatnot, we're generating the ERP EDI from a MaxRecall query rather than a MaxCapture data query. So that's all been working very, very well for us lately. I mentioned sample reports or reporting. Here is a sample report. MaxCapture processes things by batches, and in this case, we talk about who did the work, how many documents went through, and what the status of those approval. One of the things that we're working very hard to do is provide that assurance that you gave me 20 documents that I was responsible for managing, and I need to be able to prove to you that those 20 documents were processed and what the status of the output of those 20 documents was. So that's why this has been reported. When it's all said and done, document recognition allows for automated capture, and the automated capture allows for process automation and AP invoice, and hopefully happy staff. So with that, I think I'm close on the time, Gary, so I'm not going to go show the one other thing unless somebody wants to see it. But again, we are a gold sponsor at TUG. We've been sponsoring TUG for a long time. I think us and one other are the longest sponsors of TUG, and we're quite proud about that. And I hope to see all of today's attendees at TUG come up, shake our hands, and let us show you our details. Gary?
You are nothing if not a reliable sponsor who's been in the industry a long time, Raymond, and we appreciate your support. So right now, I've got one question. If anybody else has questions, now's the time to type them in or raise your hand. The one question we've got is, can MaxRecall be accessed in version 11 from both Web UI and Cloud Suite?
The answer is yes.
And GUI.
Yeah, the answer is yes. GUI, Cloud Suite, and the web UI version of that. Chris Weaver has worked with us extensively on that. And as you all might recall, MaxRecall was internally within the SX code launchable. Chris has separated that out and created an application that shows, and I'm visually describing this, the right-hand panel of your web UI over there, the iframe, and MaxRecall documents will be accessible based upon what's happening in the main screen. And as I understand it, you click and the document is presented from there. We have 2 customers that Chris has worked with recently on that. So long story, answer is yes, and we're quite happy with that.
Okay. All right, we don't have any other questions. We can wait another couple seconds to see if any pop in, but other than that, I think we're in good shape. So first of all, thank you, Raymond, for your presentation today. It's a great webinar. There is one more question that just came in. Is there a place where I can get documentation? Documentation on the yes.
Yes. At this point in time, let me just go one more slide. There's my email. If you'll send me an email, I will provide that for you. If you go to maxrecall.com, we have quite a bit of information on there, particularly if you will navigate into some case studies and customer history. Customers will tell us about it. One of the things we plan on doing at TUG is we are actually going to have a MaxRecall at TUG website where we're actually going to allow our customers to log on to WebAccess, and we will have all of our marketing information available in that website, so you can access our information by using our tools. So we're looking forward to having that ready for you, and you'll be able to do that. But again, if there's something in the interim, please send me an email, and I'll see to that you get information ASAP.
Very good. And we don't have any other questions, so that can conclude the webinar today. Thank you all for coming, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Take care now.